From historic games to downright dodgy calls, these are the worst referee calls in the history of sport. Being a professional sports referee is a tough job. You do your job well, and nobody really notices you. But make one mistake, and you'll face a ton of criticism, hate, and even death threats. So with all that in mind, let's take a look at some of the biggest mistakes made by referees in sports history. In the 1986 World Cup quarterfinals, Argentina faced off against their rival, England, in a tense match that saw both sides battling for control. But it was Argentinian player Diego Maradona who'd make history with this dramatic goal. As the ball floated toward the English goalkeeper, Maradona raised his hand over his head and smacked it into the net. The blatant handball was missed by the referee, Ali bin Nasser, and Maradona's nearby teammates didn't believe the goal would count. However, Argentinian players rushed to Maradona's defense to try and convince the referee it was a legitimate goal, and the outcome was a 2-1 victory for Argentina, with Maradona scoring another goal just 3 minutes later. The controversial Hand of God goal, as it came to be known, has gone down in soccer history as one of the most controversial moments ever. Despite the controversy, Argentina would go on to capture their second ever World Cup title. From one wild decision to another, let's travel back in time to the 1985 World Series. Two Missouri baseball teams, the St. Louis Cardinals and the Kansas City Royals, faced off in what became known as the Show Me Series. In Game 6, the Royals were behind in the series, trailing 1-0 in the game, and down to their last 3 outs in the 9th inning. That's when a controversial call by first base umpire Don Denkinger helped the Royals stay alive. Royals player Jorge Orta hit a slow roller on the infield grass, and Cardinals first baseman Jack Clark picked it up and tossed it to pitcher Todd Worrell, who was covering first base. Despite Worrell clearly beating Orta to the bag, Denkinger called him safe. The Royals took advantage of the call and rallied in the 9th inning to win the game. They'd go on to dominate the Cardinals in the 7th and final game, winning by a score of 11-0, claiming their first ever World Series title. The call by Don Denkinger in Game 6 would go down in baseball history as one of the most controversial and costly calls ever made by an umpire. It just goes to show that in sports, sometimes the outcome can be determined by a single call or play, for better or for worse. For now though, let's jump onto the ice to the 1999 Stanley Cup Final between the Buffalo Sabres and the Dallas Stars. The game-winning goal in the third overtime of Game 6 was shrouded in controversy. Stars player Brett Hull scored the goal, but his skate was inside the crease, which was against the rules. Referees reviewed the play and let it stand, but many fans and players believed the goal should have been disallowed. The Sabres protested the decision, and the NHL supervisor of officials, Brian Lewis, gave a murky explanation that didn't make them happy.
Lindy Ruff, where none of the players are available until Brian Lewis comes down from the National Hockey League and explains to them this situation on why this goal should count. Stay tuned. I have the faintest clue what's going to happen at this point.
The controversial decision sparked outrage among hockey fans and the media, leading to a major controversy in the hockey world. The NHL ultimately dismissed the skate in the crease rule, which caused so much debate and confusion throughout the league. The controversy from the 1999 Stanley Cup Final continues to be discussed and analyzed by hockey fans and experts, highlighting the importance of making the right decisions in sports, even if they're tough. Speaking of tough calls, this is one of those times you have to see to believe. The 1996 American League Championship Series between the Baltimore Orioles and the New York Yankees was a dramatic one. Game 1 was no exception. The Yankees were down by 1 run, and they needed a boost, and they got it. Thanks to a 12-year-old named Jeffrey Maier, Derek Jeter, the Yankees' star shortstop, hit a fly ball that looked like it was going to hit the top of the right field wall. But Jeffrey Maier reached out and caught the ball, pulling it over the fence. The umpire, Rich Garcia, did not see the interference and ruled it a home run. The Orioles obviously were furious. Their right fielder, Tony Tarasco, had been in position to catch the ball, but Maier had reached out and taken it away from him. Tarasco argued with the umpires, but to no avail. The Yankees took the game in extra innings and went on to win the series in 5 games. The incident became known as the Jeffrey Maier play. And it remains a controversial moment in baseball history. Some argue that the play was a turning point in the series, giving the Yankees the momentum they needed to win. Others say that the umpire made a bad call and that the Orioles were robbed of a fair chance to win. Whatever your opinion, there's no denying that the Jeffrey Maier play is one of the most memorable moments in the history of the American League Championship Series. Speaking of infamously bad calls, during Game 2 of the 1991 World Series between the Atlanta Braves and the Minnesota Twins, a certain call became a topic of heated debate. When Braves hitter Ron Gant signaled, he turned wide around first base. The Twins fielders were ready and they relayed the ball to first base, where Gant returned safely but off balance. The 250-pound Herbeck, Twins first baseman, applied a fierce tag, pushing the 170-pound Gant off the bag. First base umpire Drew Coble claimed that Gant's momentum pulled him off the base and called him out. Gant and manager Bobby Cox immediately protested, but the call remained. The Braves lost the game by 1 run and eventually lost the series in 7 games. The dodgy call confused fans, with many Braves fans feeling like they were robbed of a chance to win the game.
Story, a tight battle tonight between the Braves and the Twins in Minnesota. Atlanta tied it up but lost ground in the bottom of the 8th inning. The Twins have beaten Atlanta now 2 games in a row, but next they'll get it.
Well, some of the Braves fans may be borrowing those hankies tonight.
Some even accused Herbeck of using his size to his advantage, while others blamed the umpire for making the wrong decision. In the end, the controversy over the call overshadowed what was an amazing game between 2 great teams. The Braves and the Twins showed off their skills, and the game was definitely one for the history books. From the diamond to the field, here's one of the most controversial calls in NFL history. The Green Bay Packers faced off against the San Francisco 49ers in the 1998 wildcard game. With only seconds left on the clock, the 49ers were down by 4 points and desperately trying to mount a comeback. Then, on a crucial second down play, Jerry Rice caught the ball on a short crossing route and lost control of it as he was tackled to the ground. Replays clearly showed that the ball had come loose before Rice's knee hit the ground, which should have resulted in a fumble and possession for the Packers. However, the referee, Gerald Austin, ruled that Rice was down before losing control of the ball. Despite the questionable call, the 49ers were able to complete the comeback as quarterback Steve Young made a miracle 25-yard touchdown pass to Terrell Owens with only 3 seconds left on the clock. This call remains a point of contention among football fans to this day, with many still debating whether or not the right decision was made. From historic games to downright dodgy calls, those were the worst referee calls in the history of sport.